all come on. Okay. You're on. Five minutes or so. 5 minutes.
Yes.
Huh? Yeah, see?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Where is the phone? Okay. Okay, okay, I get the idea.
Did you see anything, Lorna? Okay. We will be winging it then.
It's being recorded anyhow. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Judy.
Hi. Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Just give it a few more minutes, please.
Hi, I'll be on camera in like 10 minutes. I'm just running late.
No problem, Paula. Thank you. I'm just going to wait one more minute, and then we will begin. Go. Hi, Janice. Okay, it's 7:04. Today is October 3rd, 2022, and I'm going to call the Wakefield Commission on Disabilities meeting to order. Reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Lois, do you have your flag? There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I heard from Kate that she will not be joining tonight. I also don't see Levon on the call. So, maybe she will be joining later. So before we begin with our agenda, I see that Mike McLean from the public is online. Hi, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well, Marie. I'm actually a liaison to your group from town council this year
Oh,
as
great.
well. Yeah,
Nice to
so
know.
Great, great.
Well, thank
I'll
you for
be,
joining.
Hey,
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. I'll try to stay out of the way.
We often have Bill Renault on the line too, although he sent me an email tonight and asked if we had anything pressing for him, which we don't. So I told him he could have his evening free. All right, I'm switching back. We also did not receive a host key, so I don't know how much functionality I have, but the meeting I can see is being recorded, so that's the most important.
Marie, who is on the phone line?
That's Judy.
Oh, thank you. Hi, Judy.
Hi, thank you.
Okay, our mission is to address the needs and concerns of our disabled residents and provide their full participation in the activities and services of Wakefield. Janice, I don't know if you had an opportunity to send out the September 8 meeting minutes, but I haven't seen them, so let's hold off and approve those at the next meeting. And so the next item on the agenda is the election of the new officers. So towards the end of last year in June and over the past month or so, you know, I've asked for people to send in recommendations. And so we haven't received any nominations. So I am going to go ahead and nominate Lorna for co-chair. Lorna, is that something you would be interested in?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to nominate Lois for treasurer. Lois, is that something you're interested in?
Yep, definitely.
And Janice for secretary.
Yes.
And I would like to nominate Marie for the co-chair. Is that something you'd like to accept, Marie?
Yes, I would be willing to do that again.
Thank you,
Okay,
co-chairs, for your willingness
so,
to do this again.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. Thank you for being willing to do this again.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy being with all of you. This is my highlight of the month. So we should then take a vote. Janice, do you want to make a motion and identify who we have just nominated?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to elect do we want to elect it as a slate of officers?
Yes.
Okay.
For the 2022-2023
Got it.
session.
I'd like to make a motion that we consider in nomination the following people. Marie as co-chair, Lorna as co-chair, Lois as treasurer, and myself as secretary. I think that came about because I took notes a couple of times. And
see what happens?
See what happens when you volunteer to do something.
Yep, that's what happens every time.
There you go. For the and I'm as we already have experienced, I'm not as efficient as your previous person, but I'll become more efficient.
That's all right. Yes, you
as
will.
as I work less in my retirement, which I now am in. This is for the 2022 to 2023 year for the Wakefield Commission on Disabilities.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Do we have a
It
second?
needs to be seconded.
Lorna, go ahead.
I second that.
Okay, thank you. So any discussion? No? Hi, Paula.
Hello.
Did you get all of that?
I did.
Okay. All right. Before we vote, I just want to make sure. Okay. All in favor?
I
Aye. Anyone opposed? No? Okay. There we go. We're all in for 2022, 2023.
Congratulations and thank you very much for being willing to take those offices. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
I agree. Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so next item is Town Day on October 8. So we originally had Kristen and Janice going to be representing us, and I have heard from the town and we will have a table. Janice has a change in plans and she won't be able to make it. So I'm going to be down at the lake on Saturday in regard to the Buddy Walk. So I have a meeting there 2 to 4. So I don't think I will be able to participate during that time, but I'm willing to get there to set up and be there from 1 to 2. is there anybody else that's available that might be able to take some time? I mean, you don't have to commit to the whole time, but just something.
Marie,
The only
sorry,
time
it's
I'm,
Kristen. I unfortunately had gotten called into work. And I can't say no to that as of today. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I get it. I get it.
Mm.
Okay, so Lorna,
I can do 1 to 2 or 1 to 2:30, but then I have my son's swim practice, so I have to do transportation that day.
okay.
And I have to leave Wakefield by 3.
All right, so we can be there to, is there anybody else that can take any time? If
I
you
can try to
can't,
be,
you can't.
yeah, I can try to be there. I have some friends coming into town and I'm not sure when they're arriving. So if they're arriving later in the afternoon, I will be there.
Okay, so can you just let me know when you find out?
Sure.
Otherwise, we'll be there from 1 to 2:30, and it is what it is. Janice, do you have any more of those bookmarks left?
Yes, yes, I do.
Okay.
And do we, I have to, unfortunately, I have to be in Maine.
I know.
My daughter's getting married in November in Maine, and so she scheduled everybody to be up there around everybody else's calendars, apparently. But yes, I do have those. Can I drop them off with someone?
Or I can pick them up. You and I can chat after
Okay,
the meeting, and I can swing by. I have the banner to put on the table, or the tablecloth, whatever you want to refer to it. I believe they're providing us a table. So, yeah, Lorna and I will set up, and I don't know, I think we have all our contact information and everything on the bookmark. So people will just, they'll have to just reach out that way.
is there anything else that we have? Do we have any kind of a sheet that explains what the commission does, or should we put together a list of the members? There, what would be useful to be on the table?
Yeah, let's think about that. I can't recall, just looking to see if I have my.
Thinking at
bookmarks
Intelligent Live,
handy.
we had some other handouts,
I did, yeah.
maybe like other resources, like the resources that we have on the website, and other like Wakefield specific resources. I know we had some like DPPC stuff, but I think we also had some like Communitas stuff and some DMH stuff and just other resources that people could access. That was local.
I might be able to get some DPPC resources. And by the way, I learned today when I read an email that it's now called the Commission on, I'm gonna forget it, and I just sent it out. The Commission on, not issues, something like the Commission on Issues for People with Disability, for persons with disabilities. They changed the name of the commission and they used people first language. And I'm completely forgetting what the people first language is. I just happened to notice it today because they have an advertisement for the director of their sexual assault response unit. And they said the very first person to be hired. And I'm sick because now that I'm retired, I missed my first meeting in 7 years and they changed the name. So, but anyway, I will find out what that is. I'll put it in the minutes as well. But it is, there is a new name, so it's not going to be DPPC anymore. It's going to be like DSCD, or it's going to be, I don't know. I'll find out. It will be in the minutes. It will take me a while to get used to that. But all that said, I could probably get some additional, they have a lot of materials. And I could probably get some materials. I'll be going into the office. I know I'm supposed to be retired. but I'm going into the office tomorrow. I'm a short-term employee till they hire the new person.
Okay.
So
you
I'll be
can
going
come
into the office tomorrow, and I may be able to find some materials there.
I
And
think we want a few. I mean, we don't want it to be like abuse and neglect heavy.
no, we don't.
So, you know, we want it to be like resource heavy. I mean, I think they do amazing work, and I talk to Trish Glover probably every day. I
Mhm.
think it's an amazing resource. But you know, I think that
I
they're
think
an important resource. We just don't
I
want
think
to
it should be like one thing.
be
that they
right.
have, but I don't really want it to be the only thing either. So
Okay, so I'll go back through my records to see what we had printed when we had our table for Intelligent Lives, and see if you know, if I find it, or if I have it, I will print it. I'll make some copies to put it out. We can include that, because if I recall, that had a lot of resources that had DDS. And am I thinking of the paper we had, or am I thinking of what's on our website? I can't
I
recall.
think you're thinking of both. I think I have it too. I'm pretty sure I might even know where it is on my desk. So I will.
oh
will
yeah,
look.
that's the list.
Right, the list of all. So Paula, if you have it, can you make copies, and then I can, when am I over there? When's drama?
Oh,
Thursday.
Thursday.
Or whatever, I can swing by at some
Sure.
point and pick it up.
Yeah, I can
Would
give it.
Would it help for the town to know some of the items that we've tackled as a commission?
I was
Like
thinking of
the
that too,
accessibility at
Kristen.
the post office, you know, things that are more accessible to what people might look for around town. I don't know.
I think that's a good idea.
So like accomplishments.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
All right, I'll work up something and I'll send it off to you folks for review and additions.
Marie, if you send that to me, and I can put that together and print that out. So
Okay.
if we have the list of issues, and I think that's a great idea to have the list of issues, sort of like, well, what do you do?
Right, well,
Right.
this
I think
is
it would
what
be
we've done.
real things that we, as this group for Wakefield, have done related to the town.
Okay.
You know, and Intelligent Lives.
Janice,
We can. Mhm.
Lois, did you have
Got it.
something?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What group are you talking about that you're referring to now?
So on Saturday, it's
I know.
Town Day.
October 8th.
Yeah. So we were hoping to have a table set up so that we could, you know, sort of bring some recognition to the commission.
Does it have to be all on the commission, or are we, people have these?
Oh, that's a great
Yeah,
idea.
we're looking to see what kind of resources we could put on the table, but do you have enough of those that we would be able to give out to people? Oh, she's gonna go check.
Not a lot.
Are you willing to give up what you have? Or what?
I was at the Reading fair a couple weeks ago, and they
Right.
gave me something, but they're not totally like the commission. They do things for people, but they're not, I want to say like us, I guess.
So they're not an official commission that's been
Right. They
voted
get
by
me.
the
Yeah.
town council.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure some of it is taken
You know what?
care of by their health department.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I could call my buddy here.
Yeah, if you can get
one-
some more, just
Yes,
connect with me and I'll swing by and get them from you. And
but I mean, I was thinking of calling the person where I got these from. The one, I'm not sure. I have talked to her, but I will call her and see if she can send me some
yeah,
more.
if you can get them, that's great. That would be what, you know, the more items we have, that would be great. Because that's useful. That has a lot of really good information.
Yeah,
in there.
yeah. Okay, I mean, I don't mean to say yeah, but I mean, yeah, that's one of my projects, I guess.
Okay,
Be-
that's
Because
great.
we
Thank
probably
you.
need some resources to hand out to, is it that Newcomers 101 or something like that?
Well, so that's my next question. Mike, did I dream this? I could have sworn I read in the item that there was a Wakefield 101 for new residents, October 20. And, you know, in conjunction with the library. But I got online to the library website, to the town website. I don't see it anywhere.
Yeah.
So did I?
I don't think you dreamed it up. I'm trying to maintain like calendars with
those are-
liaison to 4 different groups, so I think that there is going to be. I think it's at the AmeriCal, but I don't have the exact details in my head right now.
Okay, so I sent Jen McDonald an email earlier today and just asked her that, like, did I really see this or am I confusing it with something else? So I guess for us to be determined, I know we identified a couple of folks who are interested in participating in that, but until I confirm it really is going to take place.
Oh,
Yeah, I go
101.
So
through Sherry Dalton on all these because I try to keep track of, so many different meetings, and I believe there is going to be one, but it's at the AmeriCal. So
okay,
if you don't hear back from Jen, I would ping Sherry Dalton. And I'll check too.
okay.
If I have your contact information, I can get back to you.
Will do. I will get that off to you. I know we don't have any little place here that we can put notes in.
But it'd be good if we save some of those resources to be able to hand out at the Wakefield 101.
I'll see if I can get some, maybe.
Yeah, because I don't think we have a lot of anything. Like we have some bookmarks, but not a ton. And then if Lois gets those books, there won't be a ton. So maybe we just put out some on Saturday. We can always make more copies of all of the resource material. So that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
I can make more bookmarks if that's needed. So I'll bring what I have, and then if we run out, I'll make more. I have
Okay.
the file to do that.
All right. If you don't mind, that would be awesome.
I don't mind. Arts and crafts.
I use my
Now that you're
bookmark all the
retired,
time.
what else can you possibly have to do, right?
There you go.
Oh,
Fine,
gosh.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So more to follow, I guess, on Wakefield 101 once we figure out if it's really happening.
And what day of the week is that, Marie? Do we know? I think it's the
Let's see.
20th.
I thought it was a week.
I have it down
20th
as
is a
October 20th,
Thursday.
at 6 o'clock.
Say that again, Lorna?
I have it down as Thursday, October 20th at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I couldn't have made that up. I saw it.
That's
So-
what I
Either
have
you
it
and I
listed
are
as
on the
too.
same wavelength for making up things. I mean,
Well,
I actually put it in my calendar, so.
Well, if you're
Yeah.
making it up, you made up exactly the same thing. So
I know,
that's
and I thought I
Exactly.
saw it in the item, but I must have not. Usually I cut those things out, but apparently I didn't, and I can't find it. So yeah, I don't know.
At the library? Did you
I-
say?
Well, Mike is saying it's going to be at the AmeriCal, he thought.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's America.
I'm sorry. I go,
Maybe I need to look. Maybe they have a calendar. I'll look there. Okay, so now the next item was the review of the Chapter 40B affordable housing. Paula, are you prepared to kind of chat about that?
I am.
Okay.
I just, I had some thoughts about, I'm having, of course, some technical difficulties at the moment. There we go.
October 20th, Wakefield 101, Maricel Civic Center, 6 to 7:30.
Okay, thanks, Dan. It is true.
Marie, do we want to see if folks can staff that at the,
Well,
on
in
the
my
20th?
notes, I had that Lorna and Paula had offered to do that. Is that still possible?
Oh, that's right.
Oop, we lost Paula.
No, she's kind of like disappeared. I know she said something about technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulties. Okay, so
Yes,
let's,
she is.
all right, we'll give her.
I'm still okay with that.
Okay, that's good. So we'll confirm when she gets back on. We'll give her a minute.
Yeah,
Yes, she
I
is.
can be back up for that.
Okay,
I don't think we need more than 2 people, but if,
yeah, and that.
since
and
I
would probably be-
bailed on the other one, and I apologize.
No, we understand. There you go, you're back.
I'm back. Of course, that's the second I had the tech issue. Yep, that's how it goes. I just was thinking a little bit after our last meeting about housing, and I know that was one of the things that we had talked about. Maybe we wanted to have as one of our kind of major goals for maybe this year, maybe for the next couple of years, and I just feel like it's so broad. That I just brought some information tonight to kind of share with folks. I was just wondering if we should kind of hone in on a goal and maybe not, and these are just my thoughts. So I just thought I would bring them to the group to kind of get some feedback. Is our goal to increase the amount of accessible housing in Wakefield? Is it to change some of the bylaws? Is it to have more housing for people who are affected by their disability in a way other than physical disabilities? Kind of what's our goal? Because I think that will really shape kind of what we do, just because housing is so complicated. That was actually why I wasn't on camera originally, as I was meeting with a parent about housing. I do a lot of supporting families of a variety of different kinds around housing. And I still definitely don't know it all. And I don't think I ever will. And that's okay, but it's a huge topic. So I just wanted to bring some kind of facts, and I don't think we have the chat feature tonight, so I can email out these links, but I have some links that I just thought would be interesting for people to take a look at. I know last month we were talking a little bit about 40B, and I feel like in the town and in the item 40B is talked a lot about, but I just some fact finding, which some people may know, the last 40B unit in Wakefield sold for $257,000. And you couldn't make more than $58,000. But that also meant that you had to be able to pay a mortgage of $1,900. And so as somebody who works with people of varying different abilities, $1,900 is a lot a month, even for colleagues. I had somebody who, some colleagues who had actually applied for this and weren't able to qualify to get a mortgage for the $257,000, working full-time jobs with bachelor's degrees and 10 and 15 years experience. So I just want to be really cautious in focusing solely on 40B, because I'm not sure that always kind of gets at the if the population that the commission serves, and I can send you guys some links about that. You know, and in 40B, you know, if a unit is resold, there could be, you know, $60,000 or $70,000 in my understanding that goes back to Wakefield Housing Authority to maintain some of the units, which is great. You know, but is that kind of, how are we hoping to kind of influence change? And then I know we had talked a little bit about different agencies that are using some different models. And there's I will send these links out. Easter Seals out in Western Mass has is a technical house. And so just due to the staffing crisis, and actually this was even before the pandemic, just what can smart houses do in terms of reminding people to do things, setting the temperature of the water. How can we use today's technology to kind of support people of different abilities, not necessarily in place of a human, but maybe when a human isn't available. So that's kind of really cool. Not that everybody has 2 hours to drive out to Western Mass and take a look, but it is something that's happening in our state. And then Lutheran Human Services has a home in North Andover that has kind of the one of the ideas that we've been talking about, where there's like a common space, maybe like a living room and a kitchen, and then, you know, maybe like 4 different bedrooms off of it, kind of almost like a college suite or something like that. And that is, I believe it's right on 133 in North Andover. It's really hard to get in to see group homes that people are living in just because it's somebody's home. But, you know, I wonder if we could say that we were the commission, if we would be able to work something out with them. So that's just another option. And then I know Maria's talked about autism housing pathways, and they don't just support people with autism, but they just received a large grant from the Cummings Foundation, and they do, you know, one-to-one housing consultation with people about different housing options and how to obtain housing. And this would be like a different spin, but you know, they have lots of different resources on their website. So I just kind of wanted to share those resources. I know people's time is very, very precious. So you might not have, you know, the opportunity to go in depth and look at these resources, but I think if we are going to continue to move in this area, just want everybody to have kind of some information before we start deciding which way we might want to dedicate some of our efforts.
So Paula, based on what you're saying, it sounds like that we see, as you say, with all these developments going up in Wakefield, a lot of the 40B, but the reality is, and that would be for condo units. So that would be for units that are going to be sold. But the reality is, you know, a lot of the people that we would service wouldn't be eligible for those units. And so that would mean that we would need to focus, I think, then more on rental units that are going to be rented.
Correct.
Right? And then that presents a whole other host of concerns, because that's where the vouchers come in, right? And so then how do you get the owners of these buildings to be willing to designate a certain number of them to be able to receive these vouchers?
And maybe it's just partnering with the housing authority You know, I don't have a lot of information on that. You know, I
what
think,
might make sense is if we could get Kathy Boyle from Autism Pathways to come and speak with us to try to, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to
Okay.
know what's being done elsewhere, particularly in the state, so that we can start having that conversation here in Wakefield, and be able to point to say, well, it's already being done here, and we have resources to connect back to kind of help
right.
provide guidance on that.
Would it be something to think about? I know that it took a while to pull off Intelligent Lives, but that was a public health reason. Think about maybe starting now and planning for a year from now and have a panel on housing for people with disabilities and bring in a bunch of different presenters that can talk about the different issues. I'm forgetting the name of the person. Mike, maybe you remember the name of the person that has incredible expertise on 40B housing in Wakefield. One of the women that works with the zoning board. I'm blanking on her name. But it's my understanding that Wakefield sort of didn't really have a grasp of that for a long time. And now they have a very solid grasp of where are the units, how many of them are occupied, and what's going on with them. But I'd love to see Kathy Boyle come in and talk about, so what do they do? What's their catchment area? So who's eligible for services? Is it, a 10-town area, a 2-town area, the whole eastern part of the state? But kind of start shaking the trees from what Paula has already started doing, and then present this out to the public, because I think that's the most helpful thing, is if the individuals and the families that are coming to Paula and asking questions could get a bunch of resources together and do a presentation.
Right. And
Yeah, I guess I'm not even just thinking like the families that that are supported through the Department of Developmental Disabilities. I'm thinking a little bit broader. I'm just kind of using my work experience and just trying to share that. Yeah, I think it would be great to have Kathy come from Autism Pathways, but she does a really like one-to-one parent approach, and I'm not sure that that's what we would want her to do as the commission. I think it would be more kind of global or on a systems.
well, just to talk about the different types of options that she's been able to place. And what would make sense for Wakefield. If you remember, in one of these conversations, Bill Renaud said, when we talked about accessory dwellings, he said that may require a change in bylaws.
Right.
And that's something that's really real. I mean, Lorna can speak to that because she sort of has done something like that at her own home. I think that's something that, and I'm seeing it when I read the paper, right? And the zoning board is putting out their meeting notices about different variances that people in town are looking to get. I think one of the points we want to make to the zoning board is, they have to be open-minded about why people are doing this. My goodness, if someone's coming to you and saying, I want to put a room over my garage or an apartment over my garage because I have a kid with a disability that I need to be able to live there, that needs to matter for something. Just because you're a foot off with the frontage or something, people need to kind of be sensitive to that.
And I think because, I hear all those meetings. One of the things that happens is that they sometimes need to put in place, as long as you are the folks who are living in that dwelling, you can have that additional unit. What can't happen is you can't then sell the house and sell that as an income eligible apartment, especially if it's set up with a kitchen. The same thing happens with in-law type apartments, that people want to move an elderly person into their home. Again, great reason to be making a change in your home that might require a difference in the zoning, because you can't, to my knowledge, just put an in-law apartment attached to your house, even if you don't need any setback requirements. You have to get permission to do that, because that's adding a second dwelling onto one dwelling lot. And that becomes the issue, because that's the discussion. What if they move and then that becomes, and frankly, that's what usually does happen, is that they say it's being sold as a single home, and then people use it as an income property. It's exactly what happened to the house behind where my niece lives in Wakefield, is that it forever became a rental property on the grounds, not legally, but it is. So that's people's concern. But I think very often the permits are allowed, but maybe we can ask the zoning board, somebody from the zoning board, to talk about, so what are the kinds of things that could happen if somebody needs to add on to their own dwelling to accommodate anyone for whatever reason, at whatever age in life they are. I know very little about housing, and it's a complicated thing. It's there are so many different agencies that are associated with it. But I love the idea of, the Lutheran Human Services home that's in Andover. I know we talked about those kind of units. I think my friend's brother was in Watertown in a unit, in a group home. It's but the group home is, everybody has their own bedrooms.
Right.
And I don't even know how many group homes we have in Wakefield.
And yeah, I mean, I think it's very similar to a group home. I think the difference is that there's not 24-hour staff. So I think they're really fading out the 24-hour staff model for a whole host of reasons. And I think because, like you say, there's so much to know about housing that there's, in our little group, there's no way that we can ever know all about housing and the different rules, so what is our goal? How are we, trying to kind of affect change, or what are we hoping that we can do? Just because to learn everything about kind of housing and the bylaws and the different forms of vouchers is, it would take us a long time. So what are we hoping, what's our short and long-term goal?
This is Judy. I agree with you that narrowing it is probably a lot better in the long run. I think a lot of people don't know what's available for very simplistic things such as grab bars and thresholds and technology that you can use, like cameras and medication minders. Something like that could be a very doable presentation that could be very useful.
Agreed. So I think in this panel discussion that Janice mentioned may be the path that we want to travel, and to identify, who our speakers should be.
I would just like to suggest that we start with something very practical rather than very global.
Good idea. I had mentioned before that there are architects and a bunch of different folks that work at the Institute for Human-Centered Design in Boston. They're moving, or they moved from wherever they were by North Station to some other location, but their focus is creating spaces, be they living spaces or working spaces, that are as accessible as possible to the broadest range of users. And they have like user panels, people with wide range of disability issues, and making the spaces safe is the word that they always use, navigable, safe, accessible, beautiful, and all different ways that they're looking to do that. I can contact them and just flesh that out a little bit and ask, is there anybody that does, can they recommend anyone? They used to do a monthly-ish lunchtime series where people could physically meet and actually have lunch. They haven't done that for a long time. They do some online, they've done virtual workshops, but they haven't done anything in person for quite a while. But I can contact the person that directs that and find out, you know, what's available, what do they think might be practical. I really like Judy's comment, start practical versus global.
Yeah.
And I know they have a showroom where they have just this range of products that are ranging from, you know, a dinner fork, and they've done things ranging from products that are dinner forks to subway systems. So they do accessibility across the board. Oh, I would say many, if not most of the people who work at the Institute for Human-Centered Design are people who have disabilities, who identify as having a disability, and they really seek out people with a broad range of needs, and just incredibly creative people. I love working. We've done a few projects with the agency, and anyway, if you want, I can talk to them and see.
Yeah, yes, that sounds definitely worth exploring.
All right, I will look into that.
Agreed.
What agency do you work for?
I used to work for the Department of Public Health. Actually, I technically still work for them. I worked for the Department of Public Health for 37 years. But in that work, I came to know the first director they started an office on health and disability, and that person was located on my floor. And, you know, when you share the women's room with people, you get into conversations.
Right.
And so that's where we do our best work. And so I became very attached to that program. And so I was working in the breast cancer program at the time. And that was the first time we ever put accessibility information into our bid process, was that. And it was very interesting to see how it went down. So I do a ton of work. I'm still going to remain part of the partnership for disabilities, and anybody here, by the way, can join that. There's a statewide partnership for disability. I think it's like the Partnership for Health and Disability. I can find out what that is, and I can get that out to everybody here. They meet quarterly, and it's a whole bunch of outside folks as well as a whole bunch of folks that work for different state agencies. And the agendas have really been interesting over the past, I would say, 2 years. They got new leadership in the program, and the agendas have been very interesting. So I can share that out, and I'm going to continue to work. I'm going to continue to be part of that group, so I'll still know what their information is. And I forwarded all of my information that I used to receive at Department of Public Health. I am changing all the emails to be my home email address, so I'll still get all those emails.
And where are they located?
So they have been doing their meetings virtually. The Department of Public Health main office is located in Boston on Washington Street near Government Center. And so when they met in person, they met there in the big conference room. But I have a feeling this is going to be a group that will rarely meet in person in the future, because it is so much more accessible. for folks to meet virtually. So there's a link that's sent out and people can just click on the link. It's, I'll get that information out to everybody.
Okay.
I don't remember what it's called now. They keep changing the name of it. It's like the partner, I know it's the word partnership is in it.
And I just want to throw this out that I had cut out of the paper a while back. Mass Development and CIL Realty of Massachusetts are collaborating to buy, build, or renovate nearly 30 houses to provide housing for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities or acquired brain injury. And then it lists a bunch of towns that they're planning to do this, and one of them is Wakefield. And Paula, I was going to ask you if you were familiar with them. They will be leased to service providers to house a total of about 140 people who cannot live entirely independently. CIL Realty of Massachusetts.
And what's the mass development?
Mass Development, yes. All
It's
one
just called-
word, Mass Development and CIL Realty of Massachusetts.
What was the last part?
CIL Realty of Mass sets the stage for the Commonwealth and human service providers to administer community-centered housing and support of individuals with developmental disabilities. Dan Rivera is president and CEO of Mass Development.
Hmm.
So that's something.
That's really interesting.
CIL Realty has already developed 230 such residents in Massachusetts, the majority of which were financed with tax-exempt bonds issued by Mass Development. So I'll try to explain. Maybe I'll look that up and call Mr. Rivera and have a little conversation with him. See what property in Wakefield they're referring to there. I wondered if it was a property under which then an organization like Paula's would provide support to. Like, where did those group homes come from, Paula? How do they get established?
Yeah, it would be under DDS. DDS took over the brain injury probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, so they're under the DDS umbrella, and then vendor agencies like where I work would take those on. We don't
Your
specialize.
agency is not purchasing the property, so
No.
somebody else is purchasing the property, and then your agency is just providing the services, basically.
Similar vendor agency, exactly.
It'd be interesting to know how the decisions are being made for who gets to live in the residences. Are they working through agencies like yours, through DDS? Is there a waiting list? Is there a lottery?
There's no waiting list because of the Boulay lawsuit that DDS had, which was probably 2004, 3 or 4. So DDS doesn't have wait lists. And I know they're under that umbrella. So it's through a priority list now. It's supposed to be based on both an ICAP score, which is kind of your skills, and as well as like a parent caregiver score. And so based on those 2 scores gives you kind of priority for residential. And then there's like a couple of different levels of priority. So that's typically how it's done. And then they also look at like, personalities, needs, things like that. It's much more systematic than it used to be, which I think is helpful. And families have a lot more choice, which I also think is helpful and very, very important.
Okay, so we've got some action items to then follow up with some of this housing to kind of pinpoint the direction that we want to focus in. Okay, are we good? I'll move on to the next item, which is the bylaw feedback. I forwarded an email and I will re-forward. Sherry had sent us an email a month or two ago in regard to the bylaw feedback and wanted our comments by October 17. I have yet to look at it, so I'm not even sure what's encompassed in there, but I will put that on my list of things to do, but I will resend it for others to take a look at. I'll read it and then resend it so that I can kind of direct you to where I think we might want to focus.
So everybody gets copy.
Yes, I'll make sure everybody gets copied, Lois.
Do you want us to provide feedback as a group? To provide feedback to someone to summarize the
that
feedback?
probably would be a good idea. Maybe just provide it back to me and then I can just summarize our thoughts.
Okay,
I'm not even sure what we're talking about. So whether we don't, our bylaws are pretty general. They're the bylaws that the Disability Commission of the state of Massachusetts has created. We didn't create our own bylaws. We just accepted those. So I don't know that there's going to be much to comment on, right?
Mhm.
Unless we want to move forward and start writing our own bylaws.
Mhm.
When we
I think
review
we
those.
already had a conversation about that, and I thought as a commission, we voted on that we would stay
Been
with
against
following
it,
the
right.
bylaws in the
But
state.
it's been a few years. Maybe we want to revisit, we've got some new members. Maybe people want to look at them. We'll just get feedback from people. We certainly, we would do that outside of this exercise, right? If that's something we want to do. But I think we felt at the time that they pretty much covered it for us. There was nothing specific that we needed that didn't cover. And it just, to rewrite bylaws, it would just take us so long, meeting once a month, and we would have to, prioritize and take away other things that we wanted to work on, right? So how important is it to have new bylaws versus, having some of these housing discussions or employment discussions? But certainly, I think everybody should at least have an opportunity to review the bylaws so that you know what they are. And then we can take it from there. So I will find that and get that out to you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda was the pride flag discussion, disability pride flag. We want to be specific about that. So you will recall that we got an email in July from someone from the public who wanted to fly the disability pride flag at the library. We had recessed, so we weren't able to have that discussion as a group at the time, but I had responded back that we would discuss it at our September meeting when we rejoined, and we could potentially do it in October, which is known as Disability Awareness Month. And I have been unsuccessful in connecting back with the individual who reached out to us, but I did continue to pursue it with the library because they had their trustees meeting last week. And I just want to find for you their decision. They basically denied our request. Let me just pull that up so I can read it for you verbatim. Okay. So Catherine McDonald, director of the BB Library, responded to us on Thursday, September 29th, and she said at last night's meeting, library trustees voted to deny your requested use of the library flagpole. A policy to limit use to American, state, and town flags is being finalized. Librarians will feature a display on the topic during October within the library. So what I understand that means is that the library will have a display during the month of October regarding disabilities. I don't know if we want to direct that in any way. I haven't reached out to Catherine to make any suggestions. We should at least find out what their plan is. I'm sure that I know the Wakefield Special Ed Parent Advisory Council had donated books many years ago to the library on all different types of disabilities, autism, Down syndrome, just to bring up to date some of the resources that they had that were out of date. So it may be that they're going to just be displaying some of those books that they have. I don't know, anybody have any suggestions or ideas or thoughts on what they might want to do, or we just let the library do whatever they are planning to do, seeing where the individual who made the request hasn't responded back any further?
I have went to a presentation by Lisa Iazzoni, who is a disability advocate and a writer, and she wrote a book called Making Their Days Happen about paid personal assistance services supporting people with disability living in their homes and communities. And I got a couple of copies of the book and will be donating either one or two to the library.
Oh, great.
Do we have, and that's one of the things, I'm glad you reminded me, do we keep any kind of resource? Any resources, any place? We don't have a standing like resource shelf any place for the Disability Commission, do we? It would make sense to give both copies to the library, you think?
Well, they're yours personally, so that is your decision.
Well, I didn't know if we needed a copy anyplace else. I got two copies, one to donate to the library, but I could donate both to the library if there's no other place for, I don't know. Does anybody want to read it? And like we can pass it around in our group. She's a Boston-based person.
Oh, it's a good resource. Maybe that would be a nice thing to keep for these resource tables like the town
Good
day
idea.
and whatnot.
Very good
And
idea,
then
Judy.
people could just browse it and see what it is, and it would give you another thing to have on your table as a nice resource.
Good idea, Judy.
It might be something to consider that we, with the funds that we have, if there are other really good resources that people would like to see at the library, that we kind of beef up the availability of books at the library, and they have a really nice disability and disability access section in the Wakefield Library. Almost, I love our library, and I think that
Agree.
having resources there might be helpful, and then we can refer people to, there are a lot of resources at the library, and then they're quite accessible to everybody equally if they're at the library.
Well, maybe that's the conversation that we should have with Catherine McDonald, you said there's a disability section. Is that what you're saying, James?
There, I'm sure that if you look up in Dewey Decimal System, there will be whatever books they have on disability issues will be clumped together. And maybe there are only a few, maybe there are quite a lot. I've never looked it up, but whatever they have, if we as a group might consider as one of our projects in the upcoming year, finding recommendations from us as well as from others about what do you think makes up a basic set, or do we, want to get some books that focus on housing issues if we're as part of the work on housing issues, if we consider beefing up what's in the library. Sorry, I keep using a meat term.
I will ask her what, I'll ask her that question. I'll give her
Yeah,
a call
I
and
think
I'll
that'd be
ask her that
interesting to
question.
know.
Maybe she can print out a list for us of what they do have that we can peruse and,
And that can become one of our things for our resource table.
right, that could be another resource, exactly.
Marie,
Yes, Lois?
just a quickie. I know that the library has some large print books.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm thinking large print books and audio books.
Great idea.
I noticed when I was at the library book sale just recently, they did have books that were very well written, and it had quite a few large print books. I have gotten large print books for myself in the past, and I used to work at the library, believe it or not. But I think that's something you might want to consider.
Yes,
With
I will.
With a vision disability myself, it's very hard. As a matter of fact, I even ended up buying a special machine for myself, $3,000 or $4,000 machine that the library did have one years ago, but they wouldn't let it be used. You probably can't see in the back where my hand is pointing. This is the Optelect machine that I have. And it can read, it can do all languages.
If you can see it. It's called an Optelect, but you can put a
You know
newspaper.
what, Dan? We can't see it because you have the background
Okay,
on the Zoom meeting, so we can't see it.
well, the background is better than the Optelect. But anyway, it's a machine that you can actually put like the Wakefield item down on, and it breaks down the columns and reads them to you in like 6 different languages. So, I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's great for somebody with a vision impairment. And I know, Lois, is the old machines he had, but she gave that to somebody else. But there you go.
And so does the library still have one of these machines that
I
people could use
so.
there?
Large enough that it's going to take up a lot of space.
Not only that, because they had it locked up, and that was wrong.
Yeah.
That was wrong.
Well, I mean,
They have something very similar at the election day at the voting booths. So somebody with a vision impairment can ask for that, and they have that for them.
so they do have one. If you went in and asked to use it, they have one.
They have one at every 2 precincts. Years ago, the precincts were double precincts,
For voting.
and they used to have it. But, even Lois going to election day this year, they didn't have the little lights on where you vote, and she could barely see the ballot.
And how does that?
Okay, so that's a question that I guess we probably need to ask Betsy.
Dan, can you spell, or Lois, can you spell the name of that machine?
OPTLEC.
Phonetically, Optelect. I think there's actually a guy here in Linfield that sells them and services them.
OPTILECS?
Don't have time.
I will look it up
Oh, great, thank you. I just wanted to put it in the minutes and,
I will look the book up.
great, thank you, Lois.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was off balance.
No, I think that's really, really great points that you brought up about large print books, audiobooks, and the machine to have somebody read the book. Is it something that you could be in the library and you could plug in headphones so that you could hear it?
I would think, but one never knows.
And where it speaks in different languages, you know, everybody doesn't speak English, which
Right,
is that matter
right.
too.
that's brilliant. I never heard of that.
But if they have it, then that should be really part of this disability display, you know, to show that we have large print books, to show that we have this kind of machine,
The
you know, to
large
show
print book,
the audio books.
right, but the problem is my thing is, I bet they don't have one because it takes up too much space.
Yeah.
Because like when they had it, when you first come in the front door, all the large print books were on the not when you come in the front door from the library steps. Okay, that's where it was over in the corner, and it made it so they locked it up so nobody could use it.
Well,
And I
because they
thought-
probably didn't want people to steal it. That was part of the reason.
Well, I'm not sure of that.
Or break it.
I worked at the library, so I know.
Well, it doesn't help anybody if they can't use it.
Yeah.
Duh.
I'm sorry for speaking, but it's probably on the size of, if you've ever been in there, and the microfilm, it's got a
Okay.
little machine like, you know, it takes up a desk size, so it is kind of bulky, but it does a lot of things.
Okay, we'll have to, we'll investigate that. Maybe they can get some kind of a grant to get one if they don't have one, or capital planning or something like that. I guess they would probably want to
Check it out.
determine the need too, right? But
Right.
Well,
Determine
Yeah.
needs, yeah.
definitely a need.
okay. Thanks, Lois, for that. That's a very good point that I wasn't thinking about.
Can I just bring up one more point, if you don't?
Sure.
It's not on that, but we were watching the town, the board meetings that go on, and Dan McGrath was at one of the council meetings, and he had said that he looked into the,
You can ask Mike.
yeah, asked Mike about it and
Town
took him
council.
to town
Yes.
council, the town council person that is our liaison now. and
Yes.
He can tell you about how
The
it came,
AFRA funding.
the AFRA funding for a possible wheelchair that was the demograph, actually.
So what is
Yeah.
the funding?
Well, Marie, if I can, I don't know if this is the same, but there were, we have about 5 times the ARPA requests for the money we have to use. So we're going to be going through that process. I recall 2 items, and I think both of them were in the item. Not that that's where I get all my news, but there was a $150,000 request for, I believe, an ADA compliant playground. There was a separate item, $100,000 for ADA compliant swings. And I did want to ask you all whether these were items that had come, either from your commission working with, not me, but a separate town councilor, or whether, if those 2 items are different, or if one is, if in the world of trying to make choices, one is more needed than the other. So yeah, I think that's is that what Lois is bringing up?
Dan and I have been working for several years, looking for something possible. Little kids come down to the playground. Can they get on a regular swing? If they can't, they cannot. So this is why we have been looking into. And Dan McGrath he mentioned that at the meeting the other night.
Could I ask Marie permission to speak?
Sure. Dan, go ahead.
Okay, that's, like I said, that's our project for the last since I was on the Commission on Disabilities. That's how far it goes back. Those kids that we wanted a handicap swing for are now probably adults. So it's been a long way. But yes, I think I heard Dan McGrath, I believe at one of their rec meetings, say that the swing, which would be for a wheelchair swing, would be about $74,000. A lot of money. But, when we make playgrounds, we make them for all the kids, not just kids that are able to go onto a regular swing, but for all kids, boys and girls. And I think the worst trouble is when you put a kid down there in a wheelchair and he gets there and looks out and sees all the other kids smiling and playing and having fun, that's worse for him. If we could have a wheelchair swing, and they have them in other towns, they're very expensive. But I think Dan McGrath had put in the AFRA funding is a dream list, really. But I think it's well worth it. And it's long overdue.
Yes.
Dan, did Dan McGrath, I don't remember anyone indicating a specific playground. Would there be a?
They didn't say, but I'd say maybe Spalding playground. And a kid in a wheelchair going to that and finding a swing for him. Can you imagine? He's going to go like next day. Can we go back to that playground? That's the only playground that I can have fun at.
Mhm.
And that's what all kids want to have fun. And how can you deny that? And yes, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But what's the cost of a fun for a kid?
And did you also, Dan, did you folks have to do with there was another 150,000 request for?
I think that's the regular handicap, different types of equipment at a playground. But I think the town was going to try to do one playground a year, and maybe that falls into that range.
Right.
But,
These are discussions we've had, Mike, with Bill Renault.
Yeah.
So we haven't made Dan and Lois have been, independently pursuing the swing for a long time. And Dan, we as a commission certainly support that and have had the discussions with Bill Renault in regard to that. So
we actually went to a meeting of the Recreation Commission to just request that. And we got an email back the next day saying, you're the first people that has ever come to one of our public meetings before. And that shows you right there. You need it. And, unless we keep kicking that can, eventually something's going to be done. But I hate to say it, people kicking the can, but it never finds its stopping. It keeps on going and going. And like I said, some of these kids that might have been 11, 12 years old now are teenagers and young adults. But, something's got to be done eventually.
It's
Right.
nothing.
And I apologize for being a little, but
passionate. You're passionate.
if we don't do it, we're speaking for people that can't speak for themselves.
Right.
Right, I got you. I think the other thing that we have to deal with is that some of the requests, maybe they are more, and this wouldn't be one of them, but there's maybe other requests that are more appropriately deferred over to the Capital Planning Committee, because
And you see $1 million for a sports field or a turf field, but these kids in this wheelchair will never get to play on that field. So,
right. Well, it's going to be interesting, I'll tell you, because
and like I said, I apologize, but we're going to get the point across.
Nah, don't apologize. Don't apologize at all. Nope. I got a very, don't worry about that. We just are going to need to hash all this out. I mean, we've got 7 people, we've got 7 different voices, and we've got.
We realize it's a dream list for every board and committee in town, a dream list. I think it's, $8 million and they requests for like 3 or 4 times that, so.
Yeah,
By the
it's
way-
more like 5 times.
By the way, Dan and I were not putting down demograph at all.
Oh, not at all.
Not at all. So
No,
just
no, I didn't
let
think
him
that.
know that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if the other 150K, Judy, do you know where the funding's coming from for the walkways at the playgrounds? Is that, I didn't know if this was that money.
I don't know if that's what's being discussed, but I know that Bill had talked about that at our last meeting.
Right. I don't either. So just, Mike, so you know that there's also a request in specifically, and was that a JJ round?
JJ Round and Maple Way are difficult to get to the actual playground. The walkways we discussed, having them a little more accessible.
So that's definitely something that Bill spoke to us about moving forward but I don't know if this is the ARPA money or not
Right, or
for
what budget
that.
it's in.
But that was an agreed upon request as well that we thought was important and supported the idea of making pathways so that the adults who are supervising the children and the children who might be using any kind of mobility device can physically get over to the playground to be adjacent to the playground structure, preferably on the playground structure if it's the child, but getting up close enough if you're the parent to be able to watch, or the grandparent or the aunt or whatever, to watch the kids who are on the structure.
Right, there's a sea of,
Exactly.
this was a very high, this is the first time we got these requests and there's not a lot of specificity. So I'm starting to drill down now to try to figure out what is it that we're looking at in the first instance. And then to start, figuring out, who makes the cut, basically.
Right.
This is why they
So,
give us
for
the big
example,
bucks.
If you go over to JJ Round, there's a very nice path that goes to a water fountain, but then it stops and it doesn't go over to the benches. It's not a long distance to just continue that pathway so that you can get to a bench. It's impossible right now for a person with a mobility device to easily get to the bench. And if you go over there, you'll see what we're seeing.
Right, I'm just trying to figure out what category that is in. Is it in that $150,000? Is it someplace else?
Yeah, Bill will know. Bill Renell.
Yeah, Bill will know.
Could be streets and sidewalks too, I don't know.
Right.
Right, well, there was a request for 250,000 for sidewalks as well, but that's kind of, I think those might be different sidewalks. I'm trying to figure all this out.
Or a different bucket of money, right? They may have another bucket of money for some of this stuff.
Correct, and there may be some duplication. I mean, I've been harping on senior housing because I've been here 32 years and I haven't seen much done. And senior housing could also be possibly senior and disabled housing combined, but we won't get
Right on.
we won't get into that whole housing thing
Right on.
because boy, it's going to be midnight before we even start.
Yeah, and we actually recently had a request from somebody who's living in some of this housing that has a mobility issue that can't get in the door because it's not, imagine senior housing that doesn't have a ramp to get them in the front door. I mean, that's just antiquated.
It's also very hard to navigate. I was speaking with somebody from Mass Housing Partnership the other day, and she said I should be talking to the Department of Housing and Community Development instead, and mentioned that there is, I mean, we used to get HUD housing for money for senior housing, but now there doesn't seem to be as much. There might be a little on the Commonwealth side, but it's a very involved process, etc.
Well, we have a surplus in this state, so there should be somehow money somewhere to do some of this stuff. I know. Hello, that's another story. Okay, good discussions. So the next item on the agenda is, Levon had brought this to us at the end of the year last year about meeting with the Wakefield Rotary as a follow-up to our Intelligent Lives presentation last spring, which really focused on employment. And Mike, for your information, so we had done this presentation last year at the Galvin of Intelligent Lives, and which spotlighted a few individuals who were differently able and just their life in general. And to continue the discussion, we are trying to determine how we want to engage the businesses in town to, you know, open their minds and educate them a little bit about employing individuals with disabilities. So we've had the discussion with Bill Renaud, who is going to handle it, for, you know, from the town perspective. And we have the Rotary, who has been approached and is interested in a presentation and would also like to present to the chamber. So we were trying to identify who the best person is to give this pitch. And I think we've focused on, and I met last week with a representative from Triangle in Malden. So they're an organization that provides services to individuals with disabilities. And, you know, they have job coaches. They go out to their communities to engage employers, to open up their doors. They have a very strong relationship with the Chamber and Rotary in Malden, because that's where their organization is located. And I've asked them if they would be willing to come up to do the pitch in Wakefield for the Wakefield Chamber and Rotary. So they're having that discussion internally to come up, you know, to make some recommendations to me as to how best they feel we should handle that. So, you know, I hope to hear from him soon, and would definitely like to do that this year. I think when we did Intelligent Lives, we got feedback from some businesses that people are interested, but they don't understand how it would work. They're concerned about, you know, maybe what kind of supports would be there for them as a business that would be there for the individual. And we want to try to address those issues, because there are these agencies like Communitas and Triangle and others here in town. There's Mass Rehab Commission. So there are a lot of agencies out there that support individuals with disabilities, and there's plenty of individuals with disabilities looking for jobs. We're looking for employers who are going to be willing to identify some jobs that we can try to make that connection.
Okay.
So hopefully I'll have more for everybody next month once I hear back from Triangle. So we also talked about Linda at Mass Rehab. She reached out to us to understand their services. And then we talked a little bit about Kathy Boyle, Autism Housing Pathways. Do we want to reach out to Linda and just set up one of our meetings and have her present? Paula, what do you know about? Do you think that it would make sense to? I think Mass Rehab Commission, it might make sense to hear.
Right. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe, you know, maybe that's what our meeting is just about, that whatever date we decide, and we do a bit of publicizing it so that the community could attend that meeting and hear what she has to say.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So should we do, like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think, after the first of the year?
Yeah.
What's a good time? Like a January, February meeting? January meeting? Do we meet
Sure.
in January?
Yep.
Yeah, either one of those sounds good. People will be in and cold and
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
looking
We're
for
not
something
going to
to
be
do.
going out anywhere, so it would be a great So our meeting, it looks like, will be the 9th, January 9th. Because I think, is Monday the holiday? January 2nd, is that, yeah,
Yeah.
I better check the calendar just to make sure, but I'm thinking that that's going to be the holiday. All right, I'll reach out to Linda at Mass Rehab and just get something on the calendar. We keep talking about it. We just have to do it. I talked about, and then Lorna, I don't know if you have any update for the Youth Council liaison.
I did send a email out to Catherine Dinga last week. I've not heard yet back from her.
Okay, we'll continue to follow up on that.
Yeah, Marie and Lorna, I did ask Jonathan about that because he's more involved in the schools than I am, and he said that they had just done their reconstitution or their reorganization, so we should be hearing something soon.
Okay, great.
I'll continue to ask questions if we don't hear anything.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so that pretty much covers our agenda. Does anyone have anything else that they would like to bring up?
The only thing I'd say, Marie, is that I am committed to the 1 to 4 slot over at the town council, and there are 7 of those people. So if your table is empty for an hour, I can always sneak over if you don't mind and pretend to be one of you guys.
That would be awesome,
I
Mike.
love
if
it.
you wouldn't mind doing that.
All right.
Even, hopefully we're going to have a lot of handouts and you can just give out our contact information if you,
Right.
but I think
I won't have any knowledge to impart, but that's okay.
But we'll put a list of accomplishments, because I think that might be the question that people have. Like, I've never heard of these people. What is it that they do? And, if we have a list of things that I think that would be of interest to people. Well, I better get working on that, because this thing is Saturday. If anybody has any ideas of what you think should be at the list of accomplishments, please send them to me. I'm going to go through the, that Excel spreadsheet that I keep, different things we've shot,
I would even, if you have a category of questions that came from the public, if you just, they might be a long question, but if you just summarize it briefly, accessibility of post office door,
handicap parking
right, the
spots.
accessible parking spots on the street in front of a building, playground swing, accessibility, it's
Sign that somebody with autism lives nearby.
yes, so all the different issues.
Yeah, except for the sign doesn't say that.
At least this
But
is
also
a sign,
ramp-
it's a step.
Ramps down to the outside dining area.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, good.
And then a little description of the Intelligent Lives event.
All right, and then maybe we mentioned that we're, see you on October 20 at Wakefield 101 or whatever they're calling it. Okay, I'll work up something tomorrow and get it off to everybody for your review and comment.
And
Thank you.
that 101, that's gonna be in the library, correct?
AmeriCal Civic Center.
Okay.
It's gonna be at the AmeriCal. I think it's been at the library in the
Oh,
past, but it sounds
that's
like this
right.
one is gonna be at the AmeriCal.
Yeah, McGrath, yeah.
Maybe
Sorry.
it grew in size, maybe.
Yeah, let's hope. Let's hope they have good attendance. Okay, so it is 8:36. If there's nothing else, would someone please make a motion to adjourn?
Please adjourn.
Thank you, Lois. Someone a second?
I'm sorry.
I'll second.
Thanks, Kristen. Well, thank you, everyone. As always, it's a really great discussion. We covered a lot of materials. And Mike, welcome and thanks for joining, and look forward to collaborating with you.
Yes, we do.
Same here.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks,
We'll
everybody.
chat during the week. Thank
Good
you.
Good
night.
night.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone, so much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, now.